Waiting on me?
Somebody.
Yeah, let's
The
go.
city manager made me late.
Oh, tell the truth. Name the devil.
Dirty for that.
I call to order the meeting of the Portsmouth Community Network Broadband Authority for December 12th. Madam Secretary, will you call the roll?
September 12th.
It is.
Okay.
Sorry.
Councilman Barnes.
Present.
Mr. Barnes, I'm sorry, this isn't council.
Yes.
Mr. Glover.
Here.
Mr. Hugel.
Here.
Mr. Moody is absent. Mr. Tilley is absent. Dr. Whitaker is absent. Mrs. Lucas Burke.
Here. All right.
And just to be noted, on your closed session, it says September. It should be December.
December.
Yes, sorry about that.
Okay, we got it. Okay, we'll move into our next agenda item, and it is the adoption of our minutes from our last meeting. Madam Clerk sent those, Madam Secretary sent those to us through email. If you had an opportunity to view them, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Okay. All right, it's been moved and second, and we'll take roll call.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Barnes.
Yes.
Mr. Glover.
Yes.
Mr. Hugel.
Aye.
Mrs. Lucas Burke.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we have adopted our minutes. Our discussion topics for today, starting up, will be our BEAD funding and challenge, and I'll turn the floor over to Mr. Flippins.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the authority. The first item that we have to discuss is an update from regarding our BEAD funding and the challenge process that we've gone through so far, not only as a city here in Portsmouth, but around the Commonwealth. And as you'll recall, there was $1.48 billion that have been sent or actually allocated for Commonwealth of Virginia, according to what the challenge or the pre-challenge has been through the Department of Housing and Community Development on behalf of the Commonwealth. And so what has been found is that we're deemed this amount of funding to come to the Commonwealth, which is unprecedented, $1.48 billion for broadband deployment. That process includes the fact that DHCD provided a URL for municipalities, for citizens to go to this website and actually test their speeds. And there was a process that also would include capturing what the speeds were from those addresses automatically. What we found is the result of that was that those challenges included some 48% of those challenges came from people in Hampton Roads in this process. As a part of that process here as a city, IT got together with our public information office, and we literally put notices out, flyers, as well as posted on the city's website about it. The school system participated and posted it on their website as well. The challenge process actually closed on November the 30th, and now the work begins for VHCD to begin to look at what those challenges were. The ISPs, as a part of the process, can rebut actually what the citizens are saying about those challenges. After the conclusion of that process, then the work begins with dispersing where those funds will actually go. And so now we're just kind of sitting in a holding pattern here, waiting to hear the rebuttal from those ISPs and what VHDC says about those rebuttals. And so just wanted to update the authority on where we were with that process. The applications and all should be done, I guess, in the April timeframe, April 2024. And that will be done on behalf of the city and the cities in the region. GTS is a company that's been procured by the Regional Broadband Authority, the Southside Network Authority, on our behalf as a region, those members that are part of the Southside Network Authority.
Now, did they look at just residential addresses, or were those business addresses as well?
They're the residential as well as any community anchor institutions, as we call them, had the authority to challenge the speeds as well. We'll see what comes back in terms of data, who participated or not. So, but it was open to businesses as well as residents.
So you don't know yet?
We do not know yet what those results actually turned out to be.
Any idea how many people from Portsmouth?
I do not
Ping
have
the
that
system to
number.
challenge?
I'll be sure to forward that through the manager to you all, Madam Manager to you all. Again, though, but I can tell you, of the challenges of the whole Commonwealth, what we've learned is that 48% of the participants were from Hampton Roads. Yeah.
So
Good
what
thing.
was it, a state entity that was monitoring, measuring the challenges?
They were just waiting for it to close. That's DHCD, Department of Housing and Community Development, who's managing this program. They were waiting to see who would participate.
So they're the ones that are going to provide the data on who challenged and what their speeds were and all that.
Yes, sir.
So when we were down at the National League of Cities thing in Atlanta, there was a demo that I attended that was GIS software, Geographic Information System software. One of the things that they spoke to was using the software to capture the data for the locations inside the city where the challenges occurred that failed the test. Because I assume that DHCD captures the data and then we don't see it after that, right?
That's correct.
So where am I going with this? I guess seems like it would be useful for us to know where those locations are, and if and when whatever investment money we get makes things better. So do you know how that process works? I mean, let's say that we discover that 3 neighborhoods in Portsmouth have speeds that are too slow. Presumably, federal money comes through the state to upgrade. Do you do that upgrade? Do the ISPs do that upgrade? Who spends the money to fix the problem?
So here's a major part of that process, and a requirement for this funding is that the funding does not go directly to government, to municipalities. It actually goes to ISPs who are interested, and those ISPs have to apply through VHCD and ask for the money because they have partnered with a city, a locality. And through that process, the money ends up getting approved or denied from VHCD. But caveat to that process is that the current providers can rebut whatever is said about those speeds. In other words, as I mentioned, our citizens and businesses had the opportunity to go to that website and record what their speeds were. Now, it wasn't a simple process. You don't just do it one time. They had to have the instructions and understand that you had to go there 3 days in a row. So the first day you go there, it records your speed. You had to go there the next day, and it would record your speed. Then you had to go there a third time, and it would record your speed. And then that completes that process. If you went there one day only, then your challenge does not count. So there's a lot of nuances with the process, so we hope, through that process that we got, several challenges that would be meaningful, if you will. However, it is going to tell us quite a bit. So if your residents, someone at your residence actually challenged, right, even though your next door neighbor didn't, it's still telling us something about that area. If those speeds were not adequate at that location, then, and you successfully went through the process to challenge, the ISP, your internet service provider, can rebut that speed that you just reported or not. And once approved by VHCD, then of course, it's still telling us something about your neighborhood, even if only half of the residents participated. If those half participated and it came out that, at these residences there's an issue with the speeds, and that's a part of the challenge process, and we're successful with that, then it tells us something about that particular quadrant, that neighborhood, or that multifamily dwelling unit, an apartment complex, for instance.
Question two.
Two questions. When you say if we're successful, who's we?
I'm just speaking on behalf of it as a city,
Oh, just as
because
so as the city or the cities.
so right now, the only ISP, remember I said that the ISPs are the ones that have to be a part of and partnering with the city.
And that's my other question after you.
So as a region, we've had GTS, an ISP that is eager and looking at this data and everything and willing on behalf of the member jurisdictions that are part of the Southside Network Authority, standing ready to communicate with Housing and Department of Housing and Community Development on our behalf.
So, who checks them when they get the money, since the money doesn't come to the city,
Who checks?
to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do with the money for that particular area? The ISP.
The member jurisdictions. So the Southside Network Authority has contracted with this ISP on our behalf to look at this process. So as members, any one of the jurisdictions or the jurisdictions as a whole checks that organization.
Are you asking about the
Yes.
grant itself?
Yeah.
That's through the state government agency that's distributing the grant.
So what if they don't do what they're supposed to do with the money?
That's a situation where the Department of Housing and Community Development will deal with any ISP that has received the funding and they don't do what they're supposed to do.
All right. Any other concerns, questions?
I have 1,000 questions,
I
but
know.
we don't have time.
We do.
And usually when the awards come out, there's usually a little more detail with respect to what's expected and things like that. So that's a good question that could be answered later once the awards are done.
They also sign agreements and
Yeah, just like any other.
I guess my concern is the poorest neighborhoods in Portsmouth
Didn't get checked.
didn't ping. Nobody in the neighborhood pinged. And we're never going to know whether they're okay or not okay. And assuming that we don't know that they're not okay, I guess that means too bad, so sad, you're out of luck. Is that the way this works? If nobody from the poorest neighborhoods in Portsmouth challenged the system to determine that we don't have high enough speed, then we don't have any data to show that we're too slow, and we get nothing to fix the areas where it's designed to fix.
Well, could some of the poorest neighborhoods not even have internet or cable to be able to make a determination of a speed? Because if I have to make a determination of groceries or light or something, cable usually is not an option.
Well, and that comes to the question that we were talking about last time. So the fact that, let's say Cox has a line down the street, and that line is internet service for that neighborhood, and the highest speed on Cox, their mega whatever it is more than fast enough to satisfy any need. But if nobody on that street can afford to buy Cox service, they got nothing. And so how do we fix that?
Yeah, so I'm going to defer to our broadband consultant that we've hired, Mr. Jeff Biku, for broadband telecom services. Jeff?
So part of the DHCD challenge process for this was specifically for BEAD funding, right? To identify how many unserved areas, served areas there were. And you're right, not many people were going to do it. Depends on how many people actually took the time, because it was a tough process. But part of what we're doing as the IT department, and part of what I came on board for, is we're going to do market research and outreach to different organizations, and actually get the information out there and try to understand what it is that Portsmouth and where the areas that need to be served in Portsmouth. Because part of the SNA and the GTS relationship and that contract they have, GTS is supposed to provide X amount of percentage of service to unserved areas in all 5 Southside cities. So this is going to be a process over the next year, 2 years, as we come to these meetings. We're going to be doing market research. We're going to be doing outreach to different organizations and seeing where the problems are and documenting it so we can actually address it with GTS and the SNA. Get you to answer your question?
No.
So in other words, I think what Jeff was trying to say also
So
is
I
that
hear what you're saying,
yeah.
but if we don't know, how are we going to find out?
That's the market outlook. That's part of what we are. That's part of the scope of what I'm supposed to do. Is we're getting out there. We're going to reach the different residential neighborhoods. We're going to put publications out there. We're actually going to do surveys and see what's out there, see which areas. And you're right, there could be gigablasts in a certain area, but those residents can't afford it, and that survey is going to tell us. So when we take this documentation back, we'll be able to see exactly where the deficiencies are in Portsmouth.
So BEAD is one funding grant and opportunity. What Jeff is going to do is beyond BEAD, look for other funding opportunities as well.
Expand it.
Okay, but this opportunity is the big federal gazillion-dollar opportunity, and it feels like we just missed the train leaving the station. November 30th has come and gone. If you miss that train, are you out of luck getting that federal money?
This is a whole process that they're doing. So because the Hampton roads, 48% of any challenges came from the five Southside cities. So in the short time frame that was out there, we did our jobs. We actually were able to get, 48% of the challenges for Virginia went to DHCD. So we'll see what that data is coming back at. And we'll see, which areas are showing that is unserved areas or what that, and then we'll go from there. But we didn't miss the boat on it. It actually was, we did as much as we could with the short time frame that was there. And DHCD there's a reason why they only leave it out there for a month, because they don't want a bunch of people going into, and getting all this data convoluted. So what's going to happen now is challenges are done. You're compiling all the data. Once the data is compiled, we'll have more documentation for you to say, okay, these areas are, definitely unserved. These areas need to be looked at, and so forth. So.
Okay, I guess I have to punch the I believe button.
It's to be continued.
Yeah.
To be continued.
Still sound like we missed out.
Right.
What's that?
Still sound like we missed out.
It still sounds like we missed out. But the funding was not
We won't
coming
know
to the.
until we
to
get the
mus-
data back, and by the time we get the data back,
Yeah.
the train will be in
Way
Kansas
gone.
City.
Way gone. I mean, but our the municipality wasn't getting the funding anyways, going to the ISP providers, and they were going to be doing the work. I mean, so it was never something that our hands was going to be able to touch and make a difference with. But
And
it
the thought is that because 48% is from this area, that there will be a lot of attention shown to this area. And so it's a more regional approach. And even though our little city didn't really kick the bucket hard, the bucket has been kicked. And so there will be attention paid to our area, to the extent to which is still what we need to wait and see.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Definitely, but
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a realist, hopefully.
Then, if we're ready, we'll move on to our next update, and that's the resolution regarding membership for Portsmouth Community Network Broadband Authority.
Sure, yes. So, Authority Board members, last time we met, this was on the agenda, and you asked to have some more time to think about it. I passed out to each of you what's going to be, what was deferred at the City Council meeting that followed the last Broadband Authority meeting for a potential amendment to the city code that would talk about membership and appointment of council members on this board in the future. So if you'd like to discuss that now, you can. I would like to mention that we should earmark at least a little bit of time to go into closed session today as well.
Okay, members, we have this Exhibit A sheet in front of us that speaks to how we're going to proceed with appointing members to our Portsmouth Community Broadband Network Authority and how we rotate off. So if you have any concerns or questions, we'll entertain those now. It's going to require an amendment to the city code.
Correct.
right, which will be presented at the council meeting because it's a council vote on that.
Right.
That's on our agenda.
I do have a question. If you could, or Attorney Schwaringa, if you could just share with us, remind us what will constitute the membership?
This current body will stay as is at this time. It states that in the future, council members, that no member of city council may be appointed to serve on the authority unless otherwise approved by city council.
And so if you want to remove yourself, resign, it does open up the possibility for a person not on council to fill that seat. We determined that it would be a citizens would be allowed to participate in that.
But we did take out the provision that that said that anybody could serve. It has to be a citizen or a business owner or property owner in Portsmouth.
Right. So it's within the terms of what's standard for other boards and commissions.
So, and refresh my memory on the time frame of service as you all had indicated for this body right now?
Right now, it stands everybody's term coincides with their city council term.
Okay.
So you could stay on through your term, or you could resign before the term.
And the people that we appoint onto this authority, what is their term?
It still matches all the city council terms, so there's
Somebody's.
4 and 3. That's how it's staggered.
Okay. And we would use the same board and commission process and the personnel committee recommendation to fill any vacancies.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So after city council votes on this amendment, then January, we can put it out to open it up.
If you like.
You could do it right as soon as you wanted to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask, when this council's current term ends, and they run for election again and they win, do they just continue?
The way it's written now, after this cycle, no council member. Now, that can change if the new council decides that they want the authority to have council members on it. But as it stands right now, this council has decided that they do not want council members on it. So the statute does allow for that change in future authorities, future council makeups.
Well, just me personally, I'm putting in my recommendation to resign from the board. I think it's important that we have a citizen who has that level of experience at this table so that they can provide input from a citizen or business owner standpoint. So I don't want to prevent a citizen from having that input. So as a result of that, whatever I need to do to resign my position, I would like to move forward with that.
We'll follow up with you on what that is once we've
Thank you.
adopted this. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And anyone else who decides will advise you on the steps to move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next agenda item is a closed session, and we have a closed session motion.
And Chair, I think there might have been a change to the closed session
Is there a
motion,
change?
so,
In the motion,
Change.
yes.
well, you said it says September 12th on it?
Oh, you corrected it in the beginning.
Well, but I want to make sure I attach the right one then, just in case. I can read it.
Okay.
I believe, Chair, you're
You
looking,
can't, it has to be a member, if one of the
I
members.
move,
And
I
this
move to
is
go into
longer.
a closed meeting pursuant to
Sir, this
Virginia.
is, read that.
Okay, this is the new one,
Yes, sir, thank you.
version 2.
Okay.
I move to go into a closed meeting pursuant to Virginia Codes subsection 2.2, 3711, A6, discussion or consideration of the investment of public funds where competition or bargaining is involved, specifically regarding market rate pricing and leasing strategies, and pursuant to subsection 2.2, 3711, A8, for the purpose of consultation with legal counsel retained by the authority regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice, specifically regarding fiber leases.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, if you call the roll.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Glover?
Yes.
Mr. Hugo?
Aye.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Mr. Tillage is absent. Dr. Wood is absent. Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we are enclosed.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You need these back,
I would like to have.
yeah, that'd be a good idea.
That would be great.
Yeah.
We'll get a more detailed one.
I mean, it's on.
Now, we're back in open session. Our next option is new business, any future business topics, I guess. Are there any future business topics that this authority would like to see mentioned? If there are none, then,
Can I ask if the last 2% of our ring is finished now that the bridge is open?
We're now about to close the loop on that. Now that we know that portion is available for us to do it, we can now proceed with pushing the fiber through the conduit that's connected to the bridge.
And connection of city entities to city entities using our
Now
rate.
we're proceeding to start to put those things in motion.
Is there a
a timeline,
timetable for?
completion.
I'll be happy to provide a written report on when we plan to
Okay,
complete it all.
Sounds good.
perfect.
Okay. If there are no other topics of discussion, our next meeting will be January 9th, 2024 at 4 p.m. And we don't have any public speakers registered?
No, ma'am.
Okay, then we are adjourned.